What's up, guys? I'm Matthew Hernandez, and today I'm going to be going over CCR question number 3. How did your production skills develop throughout this project? Well, first we're going to have to go to the beginning. When I first began creating Killer Claws, I had a clear vision, mixing the warm, cozy vibe of Christmas with the tension and fear of a slasher film. But at the beginning, my biggest limitation was that I didn't yet have the skills to make the film look and feel suspenseful. I needed to develop my cinematography, lighting, editing, and sound so the audience would actually feel tension. One of the first areas I improved on was cinematography. At the start, my shots were simple and sometimes shaky. I also didn't think much about framing. I would just point the camera and record. As I worked, I learned how much framing affects mood. I started using more intentional compositioning, like placing characters slightly off-center to increase unease, and using slower movements, more controlled movements to build suspense. In the final product, this is shown in scenes like the hallway moments, where the camera movement feels more deliberated and the tension builds because the audience feels like something is watching. Another major skill I developed was lighting. In my first attempts, I used regular room lighting, and it made everything look flat and not scary. Since horror relies on atmosphere, this was a problem. Over time, I learned to lower the brightness, create shadows, and use practical lighting in a smarter way, especially the Christmas lights. In the final film, the warm glow of decorations contrasts with the darker spaces, which helps communicate the theme of comfort versus danger. That contrast virtually supports the idea that Christmas, something safe, is being turned into something threatening. I also improved a lot in editing and pacing. At first, my cuts were too fast, and it made scenes feel rushed instead of suspenseful. I realized that in slasher films, tension comes from holding shots longer and letting the audience anticipate what's coming. So I slowed down my pacing, adding pauses before key moments, and focused on building up to reveals. In the final version, the suspense feels stronger because the audience has time to get nervous before the killer appears. Sound was another important development. Early on, I underestimated how much sound controls fear. I started paying attention to things like quiet background noise, suspenseful audio, and especially silence. Silence right before something happens makes the audience feel alert and tense. In the final product, the sound helps build suspense even when nothing is happening virtually, which makes the killer presence feel more threatening. Even though I didn't receive a lot of direct peer or teacher feedback, I used self-evaluation as my main feedback method. I rewatched rough cuts multiple times and asked myself, does this actually feel scary? Does the tension build, or does it feel predictable? When it didn't work, I went back and changed the shots, lighting, pacing, or sound until it felt more effective. Overall, my production skills developed throughout this project because I learned how technical choices create meaning. Before improving cinematography, lighting, editing, and sound, I was able to communicate the main idea of Killer Claws more clearly, turning something joyful and familiar into something unsettling. The final film feels more polished, suspenseful, and aligned with slasher film genre than when I started. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the next one.